Have you ever wondered why the Buddha, known for his boundless compassion, is never once described in the scriptures as hugging anyone, stroking an animal, or outwardly showing affection? Many people spend their whole lives reading the sutras, but quietly carry that question in their hearts. Because while we often associate compassion with warm emotions and gestures, the Buddha's very embodiment of compassion walked through life with a calm presence, serene and composed, showing nothing on the surface. Why is that? And then another question arises. What does it really mean to help others in a way that brings lasting merit? So many people spend their lives doing good donating, volunteering, helping the poor, caring for the elderly. But somehow, their spiritual lives still feel dry. Their hearts don't open. Could it be that what we call helping is sometimes just a silent transaction? And if our help doesn't point others toward awakening, are we just making them feel indebted to us instead? If that's the case, is it still compassion? There's also a third story, one we rarely talk about, but it quietly reveals something profound. Most of us are living just to consume. We eat, we wear, we drive, we enjoy all kinds of conveniences in a day. But pause for a moment. In that same day, have we actually given anything back to life? Or are we unknowingly in debt to life with every breath, every meal, every moment of rest? Here's the hard truth. A life built only on receiving without giving quietly paves the way for deep loneliness. 3 stories, 3 angles, but they all revolve around one central teaching of Buddhism. True compassion doesn't live in emotions. It lives in the vow to help all beings break free from the endless cycle of suffering. So then, what does it mean to live with compassion the way the Buddha taught? And how do we turn each passing day into a step toward awakening rather than just another karmic debt? Today, I invite you to sit down with me. Let's breathe, reflect, and look deeply into the heart of compassion through a very different lens. Now let's take a closer look at something we don't often associate with compassion: success without ethics. Have you ever seen someone who once had it all: wealth, fame, admiration, suddenly lose everything? They could have been a celebrated artist, a renowned entrepreneur, someone beloved by an entire community. At one point, they were everywhere, praised, welcomed, admired. Money flowed in, compliments followed their every move, their reputation felt untouchable. And then, something happened. A scandal, a misstep. Or maybe they simply lost touch with the heart they started with. Suddenly, everything slipped away like dry sand through a clenched fist. In Buddhism, there's a simple but unshakable truth. If merit isn't guided by wisdom and ethics, it eventually leaves us. You see, someone may have a tremendous amount of merit, perhaps, because in a past life, they gave, served, and helped many people. They're born into comfort, gifted with talents, loved by many. But if in this lifetime they don't keep nurturing ethics, don't seek deeper understanding, that merit is like a full cup of water with a slow leak at the bottom. If we don't patch it, up it drains. If we don't refill it, dries out. I once met a middle-aged woman in California. She owned a chain of vegan restaurants, very successful, deeply admired by her Buddhist community. But during a quiet moment, she sighed and said, "I used to think I'd never be poor again, but I was wrong. Just 3 years of chasing investments, forgetting why I started, and everything began to collapse." Her husband left. Her 2 children drifted away. Her business began to decline. Not because she wasn't capable, but because she lost the heart. She began with the humility, the gratitude, the mindfulness. Talent and hard work can take us far, but only ethics and wisdom help us stay grounded. In the Dhammapada, The Buddha said, even if someone lives 100 years without wisdom or right view, it's not worth a single day lived with insight. That kind of wisdom isn't about degrees or academic success. It's the clarity to recognize karma, to see when we're planting seeds of suffering even unintentionally. Ethics isn't about being rigid or perfect. It's about inner integrity, the kind that makes us pause right before giving into greed, anger, or ego. People have lost everything over a single burst of rage. Others let praise blind them until they forget who they were. And many, once deeply loved, lose connection because of pride. The common thread? They lacked roots. A tree can grow tall, but if its roots are shallow, the first storm will bring it down. Success, admiration, prosperity, those are all fruits. But if we neglect the roots, the ethics, the wisdom, nothing lasts. If you're experiencing good fortune right now, stay awake. If you're loved, stay humble. If you're succeeding, ask yourself, am I using this merit wisely? Or am I spending it like a child who doesn't yet understand the value of money? I once heard a senior monk say something simple yet unforgettable. Don't just pray for more blessings. Pray for the wisdom to hold on to them. To this day, I still share that line with older practitioners, especially those entering periods of abundance or popularity. Because if we haven't built up inner strength, the very things we desire most can become our greatest tests. We may start small, but if we have ethics and wisdom, we will grow steadily. But if we stand tall with no foundation, even a breeze can topple us. So, if today you are loved, stay grounded. If today you are praised, don't be careless. And if your life feels full, pause and reflect. Have I built the inner strength to truly hold this? 2. The Buddha's love isn't just a feeling. It's a vow to liberate all beings. There's something curious that many people have wondered about. Why is it that the Buddha, known as the embodiment of boundless compassion, is never once described in the scriptures as hugging anyone? He didn't embrace his disciples. He didn't gently pat the heads of children. He never expressed affection in the way we usually think of as showing love. Even when his disciples fell ill, even when thousands bowed before him in reverence, the Buddha remained calm, composed, silent. And for many people, that feels strange. Because in our minds, love should be visible. It should be something you can see or feel. A warm hug, a soft-spoken comfort, a tender human gesture. So then, was the Buddha cold? Was he too strict? Was this so-called infinite compassion just a lofty phrase found in old scriptures? But if we look deeper, the answer touches something quiet and sacred inside the heart. Because the Buddha's love wasn't rooted in fleeting emotions. It was anchored in an unwavering vow to help all beings cross over from suffering to awakening. There's a story in the sutras that paints this clearly. One day, the Buddha was walking for alms with his disciples. By the roadside, there was a wounded goat lying helpless. A child was sitting nearby, sobbing uncontrollably for the animal. The Buddha paused for a moment. He looked deeply and then walked on. He didn't approach the child. He didn't soothe or heal. He didn't offer a comforting word. He didn't embrace anyone. Later, a disciple asked, "Lord, why didn't you help that child?" The Buddha simply replied, "If I came close, the child would cling to his sorrow. But if I let him learn to let go, perhaps today he suffers, but one day he may know the path." It's hard for the world to understand this kind of love, because we often equate compassion with comfort. But true compassion doesn't always coddle, it awakens. It doesn't just sit with suffering, it leads us out of it. Sometimes, A mother loves by holding her child tight. But sometimes, a father loves by standing back, letting the child fall so they can learn to rise. The Buddha was like that. He didn't rush to console. He didn't spoil us with comfort. He didn't paint pretty illusions on a life already tangled with delusion. Instead, he quietly planted a seed of awakening and allowed each being to walk on their own feet. In today's world, love is often on display. People freely share their feelings, tears, and joys. And that too has beauty, because connection matters. But if love stays only at the level of emotion, it easily becomes attachment. We want to keep others close, rather than help them rise above themselves. There was a woman who once came to the temple. She had a son who struggled with addiction for years. Over and over, she hugged him, forgave him, protected him. But nothing changed. Until one day, she made a different choice. She said to him, "If you want to live, you have to stand up. I will pray for you, but I won't rescue you anymore." Strangely enough, it was when she let go that her son woke up. Without the familiar hug, he began to long for a meaningful life. Without that clinging kind of love, he learned his first true lesson, that he must become his own refuge. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, "Be a lamp unto yourself." That's not a sentence of abandonment. It's a declaration of the highest love. I cannot live for you. I cannot awaken for you. But I will be here quietly wishing you the strength to pass through every shadow. So if anyone asks, why didn't the Buddha show affection? The answer is simple. Because he didn't love us with feelings. He loved us with a vow. He vowed that no being would be left in ignorance. He vowed that every soul would one day have the chance to awaken. And for that vow, chose silence. He chose stillness. He chose the gaze of peace without grasping. He chose footsteps that never stopped just to teach us this. True love doesn't keep people near. It shows them how to walk the right path. So, don't feel sad if someone doesn't hug you. Don't feel let down if your teacher doesn't coddle you. And don't mistake tears for the only sign of love. Because there are some kinds of love so vast, they don't need to be shown. Their presence alone is enough to transform. 3. Live to create merit, not just to enjoy life. One day, after finishing meditation, I looked out the window. The sky was blue, birds were singing, flowers blooming in the garden. A peaceful day. Enough food, a roof over my head, no illness, no chaos. Everything seemed just right. But then a quiet question rose in my heart. What have I actually done for this life today? Not something big. Not saving someone's life. Not delivering a long Dharma talk. Just one small action. Something that maybe helped someone feel a bit lighter. That made this world a little less cold. And if the answer was, nothing, I haven't done anything at all, then no matter how beautiful that day was, no matter how tasty the food, no matter how peaceful the sleep, I was still in debt to life. In Buddhism, nothing comes for free. Everything moves within the law of karma. Every time we eat, wear something, sleep peacefully, we're spending our merit. And merit is limited. It's not infinite. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Merit is like money in the bank. If you only spend but never deposit on day, it runs out. And when it runs out, poverty, illness, loneliness, hardship, these are often the results of lives lived without giving back. There was an older Buddhist practitioner in Washington who once told me, "Dear teacher, I live alone. Nobody depends on me. I don't work. Every day I eat, watch the news, care for my plants, and sleep. I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm also not doing anything good. Does that mean I'm still creating karma? At first glance, her question seems simple, but it runs deep. Because many people live exactly like that, peaceful, not hurting anyone. But just because we're not harming doesn't mean we're not in debt. If we think not doing bad is enough, it's like living in a house, never breaking anything, but also never cleaning, never fixing, never letting light in. Over time, that house still falls into ruin. Life is the same. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, a person who knows how to live does 3 things every day. They do good, avoid evil, and cultivate joy. And notice doing good comes first, because that's how we repay the blessings of this life. The blessing of rice and food, the blessing of fresh air, the blessing of every road we walk, the blessing of every person we meet. A day without giving back is a day where every breath becomes an interest-free loan. We'll eventually have to repay one way or another. Even more striking, many people don't realize they're using up merit. They think, I'm rich because I'm smart. I have a great job because I work hard. I'm loved because I'm kind. But it's not that simple. You need merit to use your intelligence at the right time. You need merit to land in a good environment, even if you work hard. You need merit to be kinded, not be taken advantage of. Everything beautiful in this life has been paid for by past merit. And if we don't keep sowing more, then one day, when the wind changes direction, everything may drift away, like smoke. A man once told me, I used to be very successful, but after I lost my job, I fell into depression. Not because I lacked money, but because I felt useless, like I wasn't adding any value to the world. His story struck deep. Because it's true, there are many who eat, but don't truly live. They pass through the days like guests in a hotel, not leaving anything behind, not making a mark. And one day, when life asks, what did you do for the world? They won't know what to say. So then, what are we living for? Not to eat well, not to enjoy, not just to avoid pain. We live to create merit, to contribute, to serve, to love, to transform, to heal. And the beautiful part? Merit doesn't only come from big actions. A kind word, a helpful gesture, truly listening to someone, sharing a meal, even just not wasting today's food that's creating merit too. An old Zen master once said, a day without doing good is a day you owe the world. Think about that. Because what you owe you must repay. But if you repay with kindness, service, and meaningful action, then not only will this life feel full, you'll also lay the foundation for a brighter one to come. So if today you're still healthy, still able to speak, walk, hear, eat, then create at least one good deed. It doesn't have to be big. No one else even has to know. As long as you feel grateful for being alive and you want to live well. If each of us just did one good thing every day, the world wouldn't just suffer less. Our own hearts would feel lighter, stronger, and more whole. 4. Having merit without morality is a risk to your own life. There's a strange paradox in life. Not everyone who succeeds ends up happy. And not everyone who has good karma or merit knows how to keep it. If you look around, you'll see it everywhere. People who once stood at the top suddenly fall hard and fast. Someone who once had wealth ends up in loneliness. Someone once famous disappears after one scandal. Someone admired by thousands ends up pushed away by their own family. It happens more than we think. And if you ask why, the answer might seem simple, but it's deeply revealing. They had merit, but not enough morality to hold it. Merit is like a bright flame. But morality? That's the wick inside the lamp. If the wick is torn, the flame flares up, then burns out. If someone's outer success grows faster than their inner strength, they'll end up consumed by their own fire. There was a businessman in his 40s who came to a meditation retreat in California. His eyes looked tired, his voice heavy. He said, "I used to have everything: money, cars, status, a great house. But one day I lost almost all of it, not because of bad luck or enemies, but because of my own choices. Now I realize, when your outer world grows, but your inner world doesn't, your ego will take you down a dangerous road." That moment hit deep, because in today's world, we're trained to build external success. Make more money, build a brand, gain followers. But we rarely train ourselves to build the inner foundation to carry it safely. In Buddhism, there's a powerful analogy. Imagine someone walking across a narrow wooden bridge. Beneath it, deep, rushing water. Even if the bridge is strong, if your feet aren't steady, you'll still fall. The bridge is your merit. But your footing, that's your morality. You want to cross safely? Then train your feet before dreaming of longer bridges. The Buddha once said, "There is no greater wealth than moral virtue." Even though he was fully awakened, he lived a life of deep simplicity. No palace, no luxury, just a robe, a bowl, and a heart untouched by worldly dust. Because the more merit you have, the more humility you need. The more success you gain, the more inner practice is required. Otherwise, merit is like pollen, and ego is the wind. When the wind blows strong, the pollen scatters, your blessings fade, and suffering returns. A father can leave his child a fortune, but if that child lacks character, that inheritance becomes a trap. They'll blow through it in a few years, and soon find themselves buried in debt, chaos, regret. Merit without morality and wisdom is a double-edged sword. It can lift you up, yes, but it can also crash you down harder than any disaster from the outside. During a retreat for business leaders in Northern California, one attendee asked, "Teacher, I want to succeed in my career, but I also want to walk the spiritual path. How do I balance both?" The answer was simple. Walk slower than your success. Let your mind grow before your achievements do. Because success without a mature heart is dangerous. It goes against the speed of this world, where we're taught to move fast, push harder, chase more. But the spiritual path always flows against the current. To hold light, you need deep roots. To rise, you need to ground down first. So, how do you know if someone isn't ready to hold their blessings? When they get arrogant about what they've achieved. When they start looking down on others. When they forget the roots and focus only on the showy branches. A person with true morality knows merit is not for bragging. It's a gift, a chance to serve, a chance to uplift others, not a chance to outshine them. That's why people who are awake rarely chase external success first. Before they wish for fame, money, or power, they ask themselves, is my heart steady? Is my mind clear enough not to get blinded? Is my character strong enough not to slip? A young meditator once shared, "I used to pray for a breakthrough, for a life-changing opportunity. But now, I just pray that when it comes, I won't lose myself in the process. And maybe that's the most important lesson of all. If you already have blessings, live with gratitude. If you don't yet, be patient and keep sowing seeds. But in both cases, keep nurturing your morality every day, because one day your karma will ripen. And when it does, you will have to live with who you've become. If your heart isn't strong, that success may feel like a burden. But if your spirit is grounded, your mind is clear, and your values are deep, then no matter how great your blessings, you'll walk through life with grace, with peace, and with lightness. 5. True compassion isn't always gentle. It's often steady and wise. There's an interesting question many people new to Buddhism often ask. Why doesn't the Buddha ever hug anyone? If you read through the sutras, you'll notice there's no story where the Buddha embraces his disciples, no scenes of him holding someone's hand for a long time, no gentle stroking of hair, or soft whisper of comfort. Not in the way we usually think love should look. And that surprises some people, because for many of us, love means physical affection, a hug, a soft gaze, a comforting touch. And yes, that is the way love is often expressed in this world. But the Buddha, he didn't love the way the world loves. He loved with wisdom. He loved with deep, clear vision. He loved not to hold you close, but to set you free. His compassion didn't show up in warm embraces. It lived in his boundless vow. How can I help all beings in suffering? How can I free them from the endless cycle of rebirth? There's a story where Ananda, his most devoted attendant, once asked, "Blessed One, why don't you show affection like other teachers do?" The Buddha smiled and replied, "Ananda, does a father show his love by carrying his child forever, or by teaching the child to walk?" That answer, deeper than 1,000 hugs. True compassion isn't always soft. Sometimes it's firm. Sometimes it's steady and still. A mother who truly loves her child won't give them everything they ask for. A teacher who truly cares won't just comfort a student. They'll push them to grow beyond their suffering. There are Zen masters known for being cold. They don't hug students. They don't offer sweet words or pats on the back. But when a student breaks down on the spiritual path, they're there, quiet, solid as a mountain. That is compassion. In daily life, too, compassion often looks different than we expect. The father who never says, "I love you," but wakes up early every day to work and provide for his children. The friend who's not good with words, but shows up every time you need them. These are quiet forms of compassion. They don't get posted on social media, but they're stronger than any pretty quote. So when we speak of the Buddha's compassion, don't expect a hug, or a constant smile, or a hand to hold. Look deeper. He loved by awakening wisdom in others. He loved by never letting anyone depend on him. He loved so he taught us to let go. At a retreat in California, a woman once asked, "If I don't hug my child every day, will he think I don't love him?" An old monk gently replied, "If your child feels safe in your eyes and actions, the hug is just a bonus." Sometimes, love isn't in the gesture, but in your presence. Not in your touch, but in your listening. Not in the emotion, but in the intention behind it. In Buddhism, compassion always walks hand in hand with wisdom. Because if you love without wisdom, you easily fall into attachment. You love, and then you cling. You love, and then you fear losing. You love, and end up hurting. And in that case, love becomes a chain. But love with wisdom becomes freedom. To love is to allow someone their path. To love is not to make them stay. To love is to be willing to let go if that's what helps them grow. That's why the Buddha never created dependent relationships with his disciples. He never wanted anyone to worship him blindly. He didn't keep people close for his own comfort. He taught and moved on. No clinging, no needing, no chains. Because true compassion is helping someone become fully themselves, not a version of them that depends on you to survive. Today, in a world overflowing with feelings, from social media to movies, it's easy to confuse love with sentimentality. But the deepest kind of love is the one that stands still when others fall apart. It doesn't coddle when someone needs to grow. It doesn't cling when someone needs space. If someone says, "I love my child, but I don't know how to help them through their pain," remember, to love is to help them rise, not to hold them down in their suffering. That's exactly what the Buddha did for all his disciples. He didn't hug them, but his heart embraced the world. He didn't soothe them, but his eyes saw through their pain. He didn't comfort with sentiment, but he gave them a path to freedom. And that is the greatest compassion of all. 6. The true value of life isn't what you get, it's what you leave behind. Have you ever asked yourself, what really gives a human life its value? Some people might say, it's what I own, me wealth, my reputation, my degrees, my status. Others may believe it's about what I've achieved awards, milestones, recognition from others. But then, one day when the first gray hairs show up, when our eyes begin to slow down a little, we suddenly realize everything we've held in our hands, we can't take with us. What remains is what we've planted into the lives of others. There's an old story in the Buddhist scriptures about a powerful king. He had everything, thousands of soldiers, endless treasure, an entire kingdom under his command. But when illness struck, he panicked. He called the best doctors, made huge offerings to temples, prayed to gods, even begged the Buddha. But nothing could save him. And in his final moments, the only thing he said was, "I wish I had lived slower. I wish I had left behind more love, not more fear." That one line became a lesson for generations after, because the value of a life is not measured by your paycheck, not by how many followers admire you. It's measured by one simple question: what did I leave behind? A smile at the right moment can ease a suffering heart. A small act of kindness can ripple into blessings for generations. In a world where everyone's trying to take something, the ones who live with depth are the ones who choose to give. Because let's face it, we all have to leave this world, but not everyone is remembered with gratitude. There's a story of an old woman in California. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't famous. She didn't have any impressive degrees. But she had one beautiful gift. She showed up whenever someone was hurting. If someone lost their job, needed a meal, or just needed a place to rest, she was there. She didn't preach. She didn't chant out loud. But when she passed away, the whole neighborhood came to honor her. Some brought flowers. Some brought homemade bread. And kids left little cards saying, "She was the only one who ever asked me, 'Are you happy today?'" What she left behind wasn't money, but a warmth that lived in people's hearts. In Buddhism, this is called visible and invisible merit. Visible merit helps you have a house, food, clothes. But invisible merit is deeper. It's kindness, compassion, and the good energy you leave behind in others' lives. And that kind of merit follows you beyond this lifetime. Some people spend their whole life working, saving, investing. But when you ask, "What have you given back to the world?" they go silent. Because they forgot. Life isn't just about what you get. It's about what you leave behind. Not just a will full of assets, but maybe a spark of light for someone who's lost. A seed of awareness for someone who's confused. A kind word for someone about to make a painful mistake. The Buddha once taught, if you can't do great things, then do small things with great compassion. We don't need to change the world. Just change someone's world, even in the smallest way. If you ease just one person's pain, you've already added meaning to your life. And here's the deeper truth. It's not just about giving. It's about giving with awareness. Because not all giving creates good karma. Not all help is truly helpful. The question is, are you giving from compassion or from a need to be thanked? Are you aware of your intentions? Are you listening inwardly? Are you living responsibly, moment to moment? One elderly man at a retreat once said, I used to think I would leave my house to my children, but now I realize the most precious thing I can leave them is the peace in my heart. Because when a father lives with integrity, his children grow deep roots. When a mother lives with mindfulness, her children grow up in light. A life that only takes without giving will eventually feel empty. Like a well that draws water every day but never gets filled. One day, it runs dry. Only those who give kindness, create merit, and live with daily awareness leave behind something that lasts after the body is gone. And when that day comes, when you sit alone on a quiet afternoon, near the end, you likely won't be asking, how much did I have? But rather, who have I become? And what did I leave behind in this world? 7. True blessings only last when paired with wisdom. Here's something interesting about life. Sometimes, the people who seem the most blessed aren't actually the most peaceful. And those who receive the most might end up losing the most. Sounds backward, doesn't it? But think about it. All over the world, there are people born into good circumstances, wealthy families, good education, lives without any lack. And yet, just a few years later, it all falls apart. They lose their jobs, their character, even their sense of self. Not because they lacked blessings, but because they lacked the wisdom to protect those blessings. The Buddha once said, a person with wealth but no wisdom is like someone carrying a jar of honey through a forest fire. Easy to burn, easy to lose, easy to suffer. In Buddhist teachings, blessings and wisdom are like two wings of a bird. If one wing is weak, the bird can't fly far. A person may have great fortune, but without wisdom, it's like winning the lottery without knowing how to manage the money. They spend it on things that harm their body, speech, and mind. And when the blessings are gone, karma remains. I once met a man in Seattle. He worked in tech, made great money, had a beautiful home, and a loving family. But during a short conversation at a meditation center, he sighed and said, I don't understand. The richer I get, the more restless I feel. I used to think having money meant having everything. Now I realize I don't know how to live rightly. He didn't lack blessings, but he lacked spiritual guidance. He lacked wisdom. And so, his blessings became a burden. He lived in fear of losing his money, his health, his loved ones, and that very fear was draining the merit he still had. With wisdom, we know how to use blessings well. We learn to invest our resources in kindness. We learn to give at the right time, in the right way. We learn to pause when we realize we're misusing our blessings, so we can realign from the inside out. There's a powerful quote from an old Zen master. Having blessings doesn't mean you're at peace. But with wisdom, you'll know how to preserve your blessings and pass them on to the world. One time, the Buddha and his disciples passed through a wealthy town. He stopped and pointed to a grand house, asking, "What do you think when you see someone who has everything?" One monk replied, "He must have been generous in his past life." Another said, "He must be highly cultivated." But the Buddha smiled gently and said, "If he doesn't live with right view, then all those blessings will one day become a fire that burns his mind." Blessings without wisdom lead to greed. Wisdom without compassion leads to pride. Only when blessings, wisdom, and compassion walk together can a life be truly grounded in peace. You know, I've seen people rise from poverty. Every meal a gift, every dollar hard-earned. But they didn't waste their blessings. They used their earnings to uplift their families, serve their communities, and nurture their inner growth. They may have grown up with little, but they matured with great understanding. And because of that, they didn't just hold on to their blessings, they multiplied them. Blessings don't only come from the past. They are born from our present choices. A kind act, a mindful word, a wholesome thought. All of these are seeds of new blessings. Wisdom is the lamp that keeps our blessings from going astray. Blessings aren't something we use up. They're something we pass forward. I remember a small story about a young boy in India named Anurag. He had no father. His mother was sick. One day, a charity group gave him a gift: toys, food, and a few books. While the other kids tore open the toys, Anurag quietly took the books home, cleaned them, and neatly placed them on his little table. He said, "I don't know if this is a blessing, but if it is, I want to use it to learn so I can help my mom suffer less in the future." Just a boy, but already living with the spirit of wise blessings. If a child can understand that, then we, as adults, should reflect even more deeply. Here in the U.S., we've seen stories of people who win the lottery only to lose it all within a few years. We've seen people rise with fortune and fall with ignorance. Blessings came, but wisdom didn't follow. And when the blessings ran dry, what remained was regret. There's an old saying in Zen, "Blessings are the lamp. Wisdom is the oil. Without oil, how long can the lamp burn?" So ask yourself, am I using my blessings to feed wisdom or just to feed desire? Am I living with awareness or just slowly spending the karma of my past without sowing anything new? Remember, we can always create new merit. But without mindfulness, we'll keep losing it. Blessings don't know how to protect themselves. Only wisdom can honor and preserve them. 8. Good deeds without higher wisdom only lead to temporary relief, not liberation. There are so many things we do with a sincere heart: helping someone in need, offering food and clothes, lifting someone who's fallen on life's road. And we call those good deeds. And yes, the world does need more kindness. We need more hands willing to reach out when someone else is falling apart. But here's the question: is kindness alone enough? There's a very subtle teaching in Buddhism. Not every good deed leads to liberation, even if it appears wholesome on the surface. It sounds strange at first, but it's worth sitting with. Because a good deed, when done purely out of emotion, without higher wisdom, might just help us feel a little more comfortable in the cycle of suffering. But it won't actually get us out of it. Let me give you an example. There was a man who donated a portion of his paycheck every month to an orphanage. Beautiful gesture, right? But when someone asked why he did it, he said, "I'm trying to ease my guilt. I abandoned a child long ago. This makes me feel less awful." That's still a good deed, but it came from a place of guilt, not clarity. It helped him feel less bad, but it didn't necessarily help him break free from the deeper knots inside his heart. Some people do good out of fear of bad karma. Some give because they think not giving will bring them bad luck. Some help others just to be seen as a good person. And while none of these reasons are terrible, they're still rooted in duality, in self-image, in ego. And according to the Buddha, as long as there's duality, there's still samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and suffering. A truly wholesome action is one where your heart turns outward and inward. You help someone without making it about you. You give something up without seeing yourself as superior. You offer support not to boost your identity, but to purify your heart. People with higher wisdom don't do good deeds to earn praise or recognition. They do good to cleanse their inner attachments. They give because they understand that holding too tightly is also a form of fear. There's a simple Buddhist story I love. One day, the Buddha and his disciples were resting in a forest. A poor man brought some wild fruits as an offering. The fruits were bruised, not fresh. Some disciples looked down on the offering, but the Buddha received them with full gratitude. Later, he said, "This man didn't just offer fruit, offered his whole heart. But if he goes home and brags to everyone, 'I gave to the Buddha,' with pride, then half of the merit is already gone. And if he repeats it 10 times, he'll only remember that he gave and completely forget the most important thing, the spirit of letting go." That's what it means to perform good deeds with higher wisdom. To act, but not cling. To give, but not attach. To help, without turning it into an inner badge of honor. Today, in modern society, we see a lot of good being done. But strangely, suffering hasn't decreased. Why? Because many of our good deeds are still clouded by greed, anger, and ignorance. Some charities give with hidden PR strategies. Some people donate but still hold on to competitiveness and pride. The Buddha taught, "Good actions bring merit, but without right view, they do not lead to liberation." Right view means seeing beyond ego. Not just seeing someone in need, but realizing you are training your own mind through the act of helping. A good deed without wisdom is like planting seeds without knowing the season. You're sowing but don't know why. You're giving but don't know from where. And when the fruits don't arrive as expected, people become disappointed. They start doubting karma. They lose faith. That's how we keep circling through samsara. Not because we're bad, but because we lack awareness. We feel better for a while, but never truly free. So next time you do something good, pause and ask, what's the state of my mind as I do this? Am I lifting someone else up, or just lifting my own ego? In Buddhism, wisdom isn't about reading lots of books. It's about being awake right here, right now, knowing why we act and how we're acting. A person with higher wisdom sees each good deed as a step not to climb higher than others, but to descend closer to their true nature, not to be celebrated, just to stay on the right path. 9. Love without awakening is just attachment. Have you ever asked yourself this? Does the love I give someone actually help them grow and feel freer? Or is it quietly making them more dependent on me? It's not an easy question to face, but it's one of the most important questions we can ask, both on the spiritual path and in the deeper relationships of our lives. Because love, when it's not guided by wisdom, can slowly turn into attachment. And attachment, no matter how sweet it may look on the outside, always leads to suffering. There was a middle-aged woman who once came to the meditation center. She looked exhausted and said, "I love my husband so much, but the more I love him, the more I suffer. I can't bear to see him sad. I can't sleep when he's sick. I just want to carry all his burdens for him. But somehow he keeps pulling away from me. That's a kind of love many of us have experienced. Or maybe we're living in it right now. A love that seems selfless, but quietly entangles both people in a web of emotional distress. In Buddhist teachings, there's a clear distinction between compassion and clinging. Compassion is love that helps the other wake up, let go, and become free. Clinging is love that binds, suffocates, and leads to confusion. On the surface, they may look similar, but underneath, they come from two very different places. One is born from clarity, the other from fear of losing. True love doesn't try to keep someone close at all costs. It helps them rise, and if needed, it lets them fly. The Buddha once said, "To love is not to possess, it is to understand and to set free." He never clung to his disciples like a parent would to their child. He didn't control them with emotions. Instead, he let them grow through practice and choose their own path. He loved them deeply, but in a way that encouraged awakening, not dependence. The love of an awakened one isn't dramatic. It isn't needy. It doesn't try to do everything for the one they care about. It offers light then, trust them to walk their path. In life, we see couples, parents, and children, friends, who love each other dearly. But without mindfulness, that love can become a cage. A mother who does everything for her child might end up raising someone who never learns to stand on their own. A husband, in the name of love, may become jealous or controlling, slowly silencing the woman he claims to care for. A son who gives up his dreams to care for his aging parents might live the rest of his life in quiet resentment as a shadow of himself. That's not love. That's attachment wearing the mask of love. An awakened person understands. I can't live someone else's life for them. I can only light the path with the clarity of my own inner peace. If the person you love is hurting, listen, but don't carry it for them. If they're lost, offer your wisdom, but don't drag them back. Every soul has to learn to fly on its own. When love is paired with wisdom, it becomes healing. But when love is just an instinct to hold on, it turns into an anchor. And anchors don't let anything soar. In meditation practice, one of the most powerful lessons we learn is how to witness love without becoming it. You can love someone deeply and still let them go if that's what the moment calls for. You can feel connected without needing them to be part of your identity. One time, someone asked me, "I love someone, but they don't love me anymore. How do I stop suffering?" I said, "Loving is your path. Whether or not they return, it doesn't lessen the value of your love. But if you're suffering, that's not love anymore. That's attachment. And that's something we all need to sit with. Because love isn't here to trap anyone. It's here to make both hearts feel lighter." There's a word in Buddhism I truly cherish: liberation. Liberation doesn't only mean freedom from the cycle of rebirth. It also means being free from unhealthy bonds right here in this life. A person who knows how to love rightly gives others inner freedom, not emotional dependence. So maybe ask yourself, is my love helping them become a better version of themselves? Or is it shrinking them to fit the story I've written in my head? Because if it's the second, then even if we call it love, it may not be light. And after all, we've explored together today, from the love of an enlightened being to the wisdom behind merit and generosity, from learning to serve without ego to letting go of attachments disguised as care, we start to see something deeper. The true value of a life isn't measured by what we take in, but by what we leave behind. Not wealth, not reputation, but the invisible footprints we leave in others. A kind action, a gentle word, a heart that knows how to release, love, and stay awake. Because long after we're gone, what remains isn't our face. It's the light we once gave. So if you're still listening today, if you still have time to reflect on yourself, then walk slowly. Don't rush. Don't chase all the must-haves. Just live each day with a little more awareness. And if something in today's message touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds, a place where we plant seeds of awakening together. Please like, share, and leave a comment below. Let me know what spoke to you most in today's reflection. And until we meet again, may you walk gently, with love, and with clarity on your journey home.